Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Let me share this. Mm. All right. Let me start my recording because no, I do not trust this app to do whatever it says it's going to do, but I wanted to make sure that you all could hear me, which you can. So let's mute this one. All right. And then I'll do another opening as usual. All right, grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Cleopatra Sophia the Bodhi, and this is a new series called Vegoia, Vows, and Validation. So when I make prediction style videos on here, I'm gonna have to come on and show if how and when they were validated. So we had a vow day that was on yesterday, October the 12th, 2025. And for that vow day, I made a video and you can go back and watch it. We are going to review a clip here. And I'm just going to read the vow out because I'm not sure if I say what the actual vow is in the video. But then we're going to take a look at a clip, like I said, from the video, and then I'm going to show you how that vow was validated. So this is, of course, in honor of Vegoia because this is one of the first times where I've said something, asked something to be done, and it was clearly done like immediately, okay? So what we did was on behalf of Vegoia, which is the prophetesses, we asked Terms, who is the messenger, like Mercury, to take a message to Laron, who is like Aries, um, to release Notice and Zephyrus, which is the southwest winds, um, to be released on the land so that we can end this contract where they were basically blaming all of the diviners for all of the sins of all the people doing magic. And of course, in um honor of Vegoia, if she granted us the ability to use her name and to communicate with terms for us, we will dig a well in her honors on in her honor. It's going to be a well pump because in anybody's jurisdiction, you don't have to get a contract to put a well pump on your land. So I don't know why no one has ever said this, but at least in Florida, you don't need as long as the pipe is less than 6 inches in diameter, you don't need a permit for that. So you are permitted to dig a well pump on your land. And so that's what we're going to be doing for Vegoia. But let's start off by um, reviewing the tape so you all can see that I am indeed not making this up. So let me share my screen. This one. And we're going to use it as a background, although I know it's not going to share properly. Turn this down. All right, so we're going to start with this one right here. and I queued it up to where I was talking about this. So hopefully you guys can hear it even if I can't. So you guys heard what I said. This is about this lake of fire and being released from this mental whatever that's going on with that. Next, I go into the whole thing about what's the name. So we're not going to look at that. But we wanted the waters to be released very specifically to be released from the Northwest. Okay. That's what I said. The guy was from the North, his brother is from the West. They work together. All right. So now let's take a look at these things. I'll come back to that because that's not really what this is about. I tried to go back to where I started talking about this stuff, okay? But this is my Twitter thread. This is the kind of stuff I'm always tweeting about. Feel free to follow me over there, okay? All right, let's take a look at this. Hold on, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. All the boats. Look at all that water. It's almost done. But let's take a look at the caption. Alaska emergency. New video shows the powerful flooding ongoing in western Alaska from the remnants of Typhoon Halong, which has caused widespread damage, displacing families as first responders continue to search for unaccounted people. And what I say, the Northwest waters have been released. Thanks to Vegoia, Terms, and Laron for engaging us with honor. They acted very honorably, and we have to acknowledge that. Look at this. Remnants of Typhoon Halong slams into the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta coast in western Alaska, causing many homes to be floated away in several coastal communities. At least 20 people are believed to be unaccounted for, with at least 34 others rescued, according to multiple reports. The powerful storm brought hurricane force winds and catastrophic flooding. Where? To the northwest. We're going to take a look at that, too. Let's look at this one. Look at this. Holy smokes. This is awful. This is awful. Kawilingok. We're gonna look at that word. Oh, Kipnuk. I wasn't trying to click on it. Ugh, guys, I always make this mistake with Twitter. Kipnuk. We're gonna look that up because I want to show y'all something. Kip Kipnuk. Okay. Remnants of Typhoon Halong raid widespread damage to western Alaska. People tell of homes floating away with families in them. Western Alaska. Okay. This is about the mounds. I think that might be the last one. Okay, let's look at Kipnuk. Because if y'all think that's it, y'all not familiar with this station over here. So, just as a brief recap, yesterday was our vow day. Okay. Yesterday was our vow day. On our vow day, we made a vow with the help of Vegoia to through terms to Laron to release the northwest winds and remove the wickedness from the land in the northwest specifically. Now let me see. Oh, this must not be the one that I looked at. Let me see what the other name of that other city was. Um, do. What was the other name of that city? Kawilingok. All right. Okay, hold on. Let me look at my phone. I can't remember what I did this on my phone, so I'm trying to remember what I looked up. And obviously I can't remember. Maybe I didn't look at it on my phone. Oh boy. Let me see where I looked this up at. Nope, that wasn't it. So it wasn't here. Let me see if it was on here. Nope, it wasn't on here. Maybe they just moved it. Because it was something and I was like, man, what in the world is going on here? Hold on. We gonna get to it. Lord, I'm about to have a fit. Let's see. Let's see. Sorry for the delay, but I literally cannot remember what I put in. Cusco. Let's try that one. Cusco. Let's see if this is it. That's crazy. Well, they found gold there. They found gold there. Let's see. That's not it. I had to be looking at this on my phone then. Um, okay, so the last typhoon that was in that area was in 2014. Yeah, Bering Sea cyclone. Yep, here it is. All right, so sorry that took so long. I forgot I had looked this up. So I wanted to know, obviously, when was the last time they had a cyclone in this area? So this is what came up. The November 2014 Bering Sea cyclone, also referred to as post-tropical cyclone Nuri by the U.S. government, was the most intense extratropical cyclone, also known as a bomb cyclone, ever recorded in the Bering Sea, which formed a new storm developing out of a low-level circulation that separated, from Typhoon Nuri, which soon absorbed the latter. The cyclone brought gale force winds to the western Aleutian Islands and even higher produced even higher gusts in other locations, including a 97-mile-per-hour gust in Shema, Shema, Alaska. The storm coincidentally occurred 3 years after another historical tropical cyclone that impacted further east. I was like, Shema? Shema? So listen to this. Shema, or Simia, is a small island in the Simchi Island groups of the near island chain of the Aleutian Islands Arpeggio in southwest Alaska. Okay, it has a land area of 5.903 square miles and is about 1,200 miles southwest of Anchorage, Alaska. And listen to this. This is where I was like, holy smokes. The Russian vessel St. Peter and Paul was wrecked in Shema, it's really the Shema, and wrecked at Shema in 1762. Most of the crew survived. In 1943, you see how that's just one line? Crazy. In 1943, a United States Air Force radar surveillance weather station, aircraft refueling station, and a 10,000-foot long or 3,000-meter runway opened on Shema and is still in operation. At its peak in the 1960s, the station, originally Shema Air Force Base or Shema Station, had 1,500 workers. In 1956, Northwest Airlines leased Shema Island from the US government and was using it as a refueling station on their North Pacific route. According to Northwest website, that made them the first airline to operate its own airport. Northwest was operating Lockheed Constellation prop liners on its Orient Express between US and Asia in 1956. During the height of the Cold War, the United States Air Force airborne intelligence platforms Cobra Ball, River Amber, Rivet Ball flew intercontinental ballistic missile tracking flights near from this island near the Soviet Union, especially the Kamchatka Peninsula. Remember, Kamchatka is where they had that fake 8.8 earthquake that was not a 8.8, okay? It was a 7.8 at max, maybe even a 7.2. Observations from Shima were normally the first radar points of new Soviet satellite launches from Tur Turyatam in the early days of satellite tracking. Okay, see Project Space Track. In 1993, the station was renamed Erickson Air Station to honor USAF Colonel Erickson, who had commanded bomber operations during the Aleutian campaign of World War II. The station still operates as a radar station and aircraft refueling station with a staff of about 180 people. The 2000 census reported an official resident population of 27 persons. 27? One of the most recognizable features of the island is the Cobra Dane radar system. This radar was built in 1976 and brought online in 1977 for the primary mission of intelligence gathering in support of the verification of the Strategic Arm Limitation Talks. Two, agreement. Shima was an important outpost during the Cold War as a part of Project Bluegrass. The White Alice communication systems provided a vital tropospheric scatter communications link to the mainland in the early 1960s and late 1970s. Its two 120-foot parabolic reactors and 50 kilowatt transmitter output bridged nearly 400 miles gap to Adak, Alaska. That's crazy. That's Adak. We're gonna talk about the climate. Let's see. All right, let's look at that ship that they have one line about. St. Peter and St. Paul. Now we know Peter and Paul because these were the yodels that decided that they were going to ignore all the sins of these Catholics. They were going to ignore all the wrongdoings by these yodels. Look at this. Crazy. So they don't even talk about this ship. This is nuts. All right, let's just do a Google search. Russian vessel, St. Peter and Paul. Let's see if they talk about it anywhere. What's the over under? Who's taking bets? Who's taking bets? Not interested. I said not interested. All right. The Russian vessels St. Peter and St. Paul were ships commanded by Vitus Bering and Alesky Chirkov, respectively, during the Second Kamchatka Expedition in 1741. Their mission was to explore the northern Pacific and the coast of North America, leading to the discovery of Alaska by Bering's ship St. Peter. The two ships set sail from Petropavlovsk Kamchatskia in June of 1741 as a part of Russia's Great Northern Expedition. Bering's vessel, the St. Peter, reached the shores of Alaska, sighting Mount Elias and landing on Kayak Island. The fate of St. Peter, the ship was wrecked on its return journey, and the surviving crew had to overwinter on a nearby island off the Aleutian chain. Vitus Bering died that winter, and the island was later named after him. Shirikov's ship, the St. Paul, successfully made its way back to Kamchatka. The expedition significantly expanded the geographic knowledge of the time, and the city of Petropavlovsk Kamchatskia was named in honor of both ships. Okay, so listen to this. So basically, what you have here in 1741, so this was prior to all of the expeditions that came across the country, right? These people sent some people out from Russia and basically said, we're going to discover this land, as if the land was not already discovered. And then they had the nerve, the unmitigated gall to name everything after themselves when they showed up. And so I'm assuming that the people who got washed away, of course, God bless their souls, are some of the ancestors of these people. Because this is nuts. And also, this ties into this whole thing that I keep saying about orthodoxy. You know, they the OCA, which is the Orthodox Church in America, is based off the Russian Orthodoxy. And they basically say that, of course, they were the first Orthodox people on this land. But I keep saying that's not true. And I'm not trying to take on the OCA. I'm just saying from my own blood screams out that that's not true because I'm from the Southeast. So, how do you get from Alaska to the Southeast telling me that basically the orthodoxy that I practice came from Russia when it clearly didn't come from Russia? Like it just didn't. It just didn't. I don't know what to say. I don't have any words for that. Look, the Great Northern Expedition. Let's just read a little bit about this. And then I'm going to look at this whole cancel thing. All right. So the Great Northern Expedition was a major Russian Arctic expedition between roughly 1733 and 1743, which mapped most of the Arctic coast of Siberia and much of the Arctic coast of North America, greatly reducing white areas on the maps. It was conceived by Russian Emperor Peter the Great and took place under Empresses Anna and Elizabeth. Peter hoped for the 18th century Russian Navy to map a northern sea route from Europe to the Pacific. The endeavor was sponsored by the Admiralty College in St. Petersburg. The main organizer and lead expedition was Vistus Bering, who had been commissioned by Peter to lead the earlier First Kamchatka expedition. With over 3,000 people, holy smokes, directly or indirectly involved. It was one of the largest expeditions in history. The expedition's primary objective was reaching the eastern reaches of Siberia and from there the western shores of North America. How did they know North America existed? I mean, I guess they did, but anyway, the expedition included the European discovery of Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, the Commander Islands, the Bering Island, as well as a very detailed cartographic assessment of the northern and northeastern coast of Russia and the Kuril Islands, any large landmass in the North Pacific, as well as any economically viable northeast passage sought since the 16th century, were both proven not to exist. Other findings included ethnographic, historic, scientific research into Siberia and Kamchatka. Its cost was an estimated 1.5 million rubles and financed entirely by the Russian state, equal to roughly one-sixth of state income in 1724. Holy smokes. Why would they spend that much money? Let's look at the map. So basically, before this expedition, they didn't know any of this stuff was here. They didn't know nothing about none of this. That's craziness. Let's see. All right. So they was really trying to figure out if there was a connection to North America. I'm not gonna read all of this. All right, the academic portion of the expedition was led by three professors from the Russian Academy. So let me just pause. This is why that lady, that Trump fired from the um Federal Reserve, who was committed mortgage fraud. This is why she spoke Russian, because they discovered a lot of stuff when these people went to North America, to Alaska instead of coming from Europe, like the regular part of Europe. So there's probably a lot of documents still written in Russian that have not yet to be translated about who was there and what they look like. Okay, you already know that how that works. Johann George Gmelin was responsible for the research into the plant and animal world, as well as the mineral characteristics of the regions to be explored. Gmelin was a natural philosopher and botanist from Württemberg who had studied Tübingen and had researched the chemical composition of curative waters. Why would they send? Whoa, why would they send a researcher on curative waters on this trip? What's in those waters in Alaska? I mean, Russia's right beside it. What's in those waters that they? What did they think was in those waters? Lord, this is a Lord. At the urging of his former teacher, George Bernhard Bilfinger, Gimlin moved to Russia with him in 1727. There he received a teaching post in chemistry and natural history. The academy chose the German historian and geographer Gerhard Friedrich Müller to head the geographic and historical studies. Müller had studied in Rintelen and Leipzig and had gone to St. Petersburg in 1725 on the recommendation of a colleague. He became an extraordinary professor in 1730 and a year later was promoted to full professor. He researched Russian history intensively, resulting in a publication of the first volume called Collected History of Russia. Because of Miller's haughty bearing as a chancellor's secretary, there was frequent friction between him and his colleagues. His participation in the expedition was due not only to his desire to have access to historical sources through the expedition, but to spend some time away from St. Petersburg. It was while engaged in this trip that he developed his concept of ethnography. Holy smokes. Oh my God. Okay. The reason why blacks in America are in the position we're in is because of ethnographers, okay? What ethnography did. Now, I don't know if it was this guy's, I don't know. This is crazy. What these ethnographers did in America is when they discovered, oh, well, there's black people everywhere, they staged their own pictures. If you look at all of those pictures of all of these different tribes, the outfits are way too clean. They're literally staged. The ones that the people drew were truer than the ones that the pictures the people took. And we also discovered that many of these ethnographers were part Negro themselves, for one, and for two, they were in the movie business. Ethnography is nothing but a movie. It's literally the source of propaganda that's destroying this planet. Ethnography specifically because they're supposed to be observing people in their real habitat and making reports back, and they never do. They never observe what really happened and just tell the story. They add their own whitewashing literally to the story. So if you have an ethnographer go into a black, this is like true story. I'm an academic person, okay? If you have an ethnographer go into a let's say a black community, right? Let's say they're going to go work with teen moms. That was the population I worked with. They would observe someone like me interacting with the teen moms, and then they would go back and write a report. And my version of the story is the teen moms were in need, they needed help with this, they were trying to figure this out, that out, so on and so forth. The ethnographer will go back and tell the story and be like, well, there was a slightly older girl helping some younger girls, and the slightly older girl, because remember, like I told y'all, when I worked in the group homes, my daughter was just born. Like literally, she had just been born. It was my first job out of college and also after having birth, my real first job. And they would say, "Oh, there's a young girl there with a small child who's telling these other young girls with a small child how to be reasonable. But what she's saying is not really good because dot dot dot." They would just lie. The ethnography is a lie. These people lie. They lie. They wait for you to do stupid stuff and they won't help you. They just come and observe and document what they saw, but they don't even understand They don't understand the bigger picture. They just got this one little puzzle piece and they're telling you everything about this one puzzle piece. That's what ethnography is. It takes nothing into account for the full story. So this guy, Gerhard Friedrich Muller, is the father of ethnography. Lord have mercy. This is the bottom of the barrel. This ethnography is awful. We're going to do another video on the ethnography stuff. I'll come back to that. On the suggestion of the astronomer Joseph Nicholas de Sale, the Academy of Sciences entrusted the job of astronomical and geographic meteorology to I said de Sale, Delis, this Delisel, Delis, I think the L-E is silent. Delis' younger brother, Louis Delis de la Croix. He's French. Louis had been working at the academy as an adjunct in astronomy. His In 727, he was promoted to professor and was sent on a 3-year exploration of the Archangelisk. That sounds like Los Angeles. Archangelisk and the Koala Peninsula, giving him some experience in exploration expeditions. Participants in the academic portion of the expedition were answerable not to its leader Bering, but to the Academy of Sciences. Okay, this is crazy. This is insane. Though aboard the St. Peter with Vitzis Bering, George Wilhelm Steller was a naturalist by trade and contributed considerable amount to the scientific observation and recording on the expedition. In his time on the journey, he sampled and recorded many plant and bird species that the Europeans had never been exposed to. He was the first European to document the Aleut people. So basically, the people who were already there on the land, right? But what did they look like? That would be the real question. Um, let's see. They sent in two groups of people that um disappeared. He notes in his manuscripts of signs of native Kamchatkans that the crew left them an iron kettle, a pound of tobacco, a Chinese pipe, and a piece of Chinese silk in a cellar that was found on the island. Steller also recorded the Steller's J that bears his name, as well as having a sea cow, Steller's sea cow, named after him. I'm just floored by this whole. I'm just floored by this. Bering's ship was battered by storms, and in November, his ship was wrecked on the shore of Bering Island, which many crew thought to be the coast of Kamchatka. Steller attempted to treat the crew's scurvy with local leaves and berries he had gathered, but officers dismissed him. Steller and his assistant were some of the few voyagers who did not suffer from scurvy. On the return journey, with only 12 members of the crew able to move and the rigging rapidly failing, the expedition was shipwrecked on what later became known as Bering Island. Almost half the crew had perished during the voyage. Bering was among the crew to fall sick with scurvy and died on December the 8th. The stranded crew wintered on the island with 28 crew members dying. When the weather improved, 46 sailors built a 40-foot boat from the wreckage and set sail for Petropavlovsk in August of 1742. Bering's crew reached the shore of Kamchatka in 1742, carrying word of the expedition. The sea otter pelts they bought, soon judged to be the finest fur in the world, would start the Russian settlement in Alaska. So there were people there, the Aleuts, and basically these people were like, "Oh, they got fur there. It's the best fur in the world. Let's go and take it." Because what else would they do? I just can't believe. Oh my goodness, y'all don't even understand. So let's look at this. Let's go back over here to my X page and let's look up Columbus parades canceled. Unbelievable. New Yorkers irate after annual Columbus Parade Day canceled over nor'easter. It was raining real bad in New York. All right. Um, this is all the ones in New York. Uh, they're really mad. Rain or shine, blah blah blah. It's canceled because they have put up a state of emergency. Okay. Um. Now, mind you, they canceled it because of the rain. It was because of the rain. Nobody else is talking about it. Well, I'll tell you one thing. There was supposed to be a Columbus Day parade in Phoenix, Arizona. That was also canceled due to rain in Phoenix, Arizona, where they don't get a lot of rain. They're only talking about the New York one. That's crazy. That's the only one they're talking about. But they got bad rain up there. I mean, what do you want to do? They got bad rain. I'm just showing y'all the timeline. Here we go. Columbus, Ohio. Oh, this was 2023. Dang. That's Veterans Day. Veterans Day is still coming. Um, Heavy rain and strong winds forced NYC to cancel both the Columbus Day parade and the Indigenous Peoples Day celebration in Randall's Island. Okay, so I want to point this out, and I'll just stop sharing because I've just had enough of this, right? So we very and it canceled for rain at that. We very specifically, very specifically asked for. Oh, let me show y'all something else. I forgot. I'm sorry. One last thing. One last thing. Gotta show y'all this. So let's look at what Northwest is because that's what it was. It was the no, no, no. It was the Southwest. It was the Southwest winds that was released. And I remember that's on our scale of octad, which is the ordinal directions. So Eloha Vadath and Jehovah we have to say thank you to them as well for allowing this to go through. So the southwest direction is the reward of the blessed is grace. The visible heaven is the heaven of Venus. It's the moisture of water. That's the particular qualities. The kinds of blessed men are the merciful, and the punishment of the damned is indignation. Were those people merciful when they came onto our land and like stole the land, but they stole the land from people who had also stolen the land? Because why did those people have a Chinese pipe? Why did they have Chinese silk? Because they came from China. So those people came from China. They stole all of this stuff. Then you had the Russians come in and say, "Oh my gosh, we've discovered more of Russia," and really it was not more of Russia. And then they proceeded to steal the land too. The moisture of water. So that's what they received. They received the moisture of water. So just to wrap this up, we asked on behalf of Vegoia for terms to take a message to Laron to release the northwest winds. The northwest winds um literally hit the northwest via a huge typhoon that washed houses away in Alaska, and it also canceled the rain specifically, and but it wasn't quite the northwest. Well, it's kind of the northwest because of the way if you look at my other four corner map, but it also wiped away their Columbus Day celebration. So I take from that, this is my interpretation. I think that all of these professional victims units, the ones that are coming from one side of Europe and the ones that come from the other side of Europe, kind of Asia style Europe, are being called out. They're going to be removed from the land. They're going to be embarrassed. What was that thing? Let me look at it one more time. I can't remember. I hate when I can't remember stuff. indignation, right? They have been indignant about their ownership, I guess, of the land. They don't own this land. This land does not belong to them. You came here and you found people were already here. Then you found out Negroes was here, and y'all was like, no, we're going to lie to the whole world from the east to the west and tell them that these Asian looking people were the natives to the land, even though they weren't the natives to the land. So now, again, the native people who call themselves natives, the Professional Victims Unit number two, who is just as bad as the Professional Victims Unit number one, who got their hind parts handed to them, but we don't have to worry about them anymore. But the Professional Victims Unit number two with the feathers now, or the fur. Actually, it really should be fur. The Professional Victims Unit number two with the fur is now being called onto the center stage to perform. Because if they were the real prophets, prophetesses, owners of the land, or whatever, it would be really easy for whatever they say to come true. So we did a vow for the evil and the wicked to be removed from the land, the one who are larping in the energy of the diviners. And what happens? Columbus Day Parade is canceled, and those Alaskans got washed away. So you make of it what you will. All I can say is thank you to Vegoia, to Terms, to Laron for doing your jobs. And of course, all praises go to the creator for allowing this thing to happen so these people can learn their lesson. We want the people to learn the lesson so that they can repent and turn back to the creator so that they can be restored and made whole. This is not laughing in their faces because they're suffering. This is, hey, you might want to turn around because you're going the wrong direction. And this is as nice and as friendly as I can be, having experienced what I've experienced for the last few years. So I hope you all enjoyed this. This is just the first episode. We'll see how often we make these vows. I'm not going to go into detail about that right now, what I was going to say, but I'm not. So, shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.